Can everyone hear me okay? All right. Well, let me introduce myself. My name is Amirehsani, and I have the pleasure of being the congregational nurse here. So I'm seeing some faces I may not normally see during the week, but it's a pleasure to meet all of you. And this week, we're kicking off a 3-week series, and it's really about finding peace during the holidays. So I'm going to be talking a little bit about stress, because I think holidays come with stress. What do you guys think? Absolutely. How many have that pure joy of being a child when you come in, when you think of the holidays?
I do, but I'm also, it's stressful putting them on. It's stressful.
We're
going
going
to
to
make this year go away.
Yeah, so that your kids can just enjoy. Okay, well, we're going to kind of talk about that and maybe some strategies for everyone, okay? And please, this is going to be some conversation because I want this to be really useful to everyone. So your initial thoughts and emotions, you guys have already started to tell me stress, putting them on, that comes with stuff, right? So how many of you just feel peace? Anybody? No?
Sometimes,
So, during moments? Snippets? Would it be after it's all over?
Maybe. After I had a meltdown, then I feel really peaceful.
Okay. Good way to put it. I like that. That happiness, right? We want to see our kids happy, hopefully, as well, or grandchildren. That joy. You know, I think it's really changed too, but I think stress is probably what I hear from most people. And, you know, as a nurse practitioner, when I was working full-time in practice, that's often when I would see people coming in. Because the stress of the holidays has different things associated with your family, with memories, people who are no longer there, history, different conflicts, all kinds of things. So there's so much to do. How do I put it on, right? And then past holiday experiences. I hope no one will be offended, but we're going to see a little clip real quickly from SNL, from Saturday Night Live. Okay. What did you guys think of that?
That's right on.
Is it kind of like how real life goes sometimes, right, within our families? Yeah. So let's put a little humor in this, because sometimes holidays are so stressful, we have to be realistic and we have to look, and every family's in a different spot of where they're at. But some thoughts that Patty Edmonds and Dawn and I came up as we were planning this, one of the thoughts we wanted you to think, what do you want your children and your grandchildren to tell others about your family gathering? Because I think as we're coming up with strategies to manage the stress of the holidays, is to go back and look at that, right? And maybe reflect from when you were a child, what was meaningful, but what do we want that to be about? What would we want them to be talking about? And what are the pieces of that legacy? You guys, I come from a mixed family. Both of my parents are divorced. My dad remarried. I've got 3 stepsisters there. My mom, who I spent all my time mostly growing up with, remarried, and I've got my brother, and I've got 6 step-siblings, and I'm the youngest. And, you know, when we would get together, there is a lot of people and a lot of stuff, right? So again, but we actually found some traditions in our blended family that worked in some levels and didn't work on other levels, like every other family, okay? But I really want you to think about, within your family structure, how you can empower yourself and your family, right, to maybe reset. You know, this is a new year. It's going to be, I don't know, have all of you guys had big family gatherings since COVID? Yeah, I think for some families, this is going to be maybe that first year where they really have gotten more extended family members together. And I think every year is an opportunity, but I think this year is a good opportunity to figure out how we could reset. And we'll talk about some specifics of that. So one, how can we lower down that stress and really enjoy what the holidays are really meant to be about? So we're going to just pop off some ideas, but then I'm going to have you break into some small groups of people next to you. But what causes you stress on the holidays? One of these expectations, right? Who said you have to? Why do we have to? You know, the have tos and the shoulds and the must, and they'll get upset. So if I don't do it, if I'm hosting, if I do it this way, well, oh, who's going to, you know, isn't that running through our minds a lot? You know, and I don't know about everyone here, but I think the expectations have ratcheted up over the years.
Yeah.
You know, from, you know, when I was a kid and life was a little bit simpler, right? You know, and the number of gifts, the number of people, the food, I mean, everything has just gotten to higher levels. And I think a lot of it falls on women and families to make sure all this stuff happens. Some of us, and I happen to be one of those people, perfection, you know, wanting it to just be right, wanting it to look good. I see some smiles, you know, wanting everyone to be happy, right? How about the food? What, have any of you guys tried changing the menu? And what happens when you change the menu?
Where's the sweet potatoes?
Exactly. But that's a lot of work getting all the food together, especially if you're thinking you're going to do it all yourself. What about those touchy subjects? I love the guy with the hat, the politics that started at the table, right? But you know what? What about your kids? And everyone wanting to ask them. Well, I remember coming back here. My parents are from North Carolina, but I was the military family. Grew up in California. Every time I came back, I got 5 questions. Got a beau fella yet? You got a beau fella? You know, something. Who's your boyfriend? Tell me something about them. Or the young adults. What are your career goals? Or are you making it? What are you doing? Why are you choosing that? Right? In those kind of terms. Gifts. Who do you buy for? How many do you buy for? Do you do gift exchanges? What does that look like? Competition about gifts, right? Maybe. And then there may be some family members that don't get along, or you don't get along with them, and then trying to figure out how to navigate some of that, or you're already worrying about that before the holidays have gotten here. What I'd like you guys to all do is just, let's take, I don't know, 4 minutes or so. I'll kind of keep time. And why don't you talk amongst each other in some small groups, the person next to you. What are some things, some stressors that affect your family for the holidays or yourself that you would hopefully like to change? Okay? You guys want to take a couple minutes? Let's do that. And then we're going to share as a group.
Young, your life. My friends were everybody else not gonna work on the rest of the week. Oh, yeah. Every time that you get on research,
You guys want to keep going on? You guys think finish your got it. You remember? We're going to join back. Yeah. If you guys can just start winding down your conversation, we're going to go ahead and join back with the big group. I think you guys really, this is a good topic, isn't it? You guys have a lot to say about it. Yeah. Well, you know what? Would you guys like to share a few from each group? What are some of the stressors that you guys said you would like to change? I imagine some of them are universal in many ways, maybe slight variations, but what type of, yeah, go ahead.
We talked a little bit about, different philosophies within your family about gift giving. And how to manage that. And we also talked about just that family obligation that we may or may not feel to be the hostess, to do the meal, to make the plans,
right,
to orchestrate it all. And that was pretty much it. Yeah. The family obligations, and then just the, respecting different people's thoughts about how they celebrate Christmas, whether it's going over the top or whether it's being minimalist and giving experiences to your children for Christmas, or the difficult relatives that come in and just all that.
It's a lot, but you know what? If we can figure out how to negotiate some of that, one within our nuclear family, do you know what I mean? And then with our extended family, which means once we're adults, our siblings and their in-laws and all of that. it makes it easier if we can begin, but it doesn't usually work so well. I'm finding to do it right before the holiday hits.
My sister-in-law texted me yesterday and suggested, let's make donations in each family's honor. And I was like, girl, I've already bought presents for your kids. This is a little too late to be suggesting this to me. But I said, that is a great idea. If you want to do that, that is awesome. Please do that.
So it's about accepting what others want to do, but not shaming or not putting down or not
She
getting.
won't be mad at me that I've already bought her kids presents.
But I think, these are conversations that really go on over time.
We talked about that. Sometimes it might take several years.
Absolutely.
On it
Absolutely.
To try to change
Yeah.
the pattern. Yeah.
What are some other things? Yes.
We talked about giving, which has just been, and I talked about that. I always talk to my children, my child and his wife, and we talk back and forth. And I really am fine with them asking, do you mind giving Anna this? Or what about this?
Mhm.
And I find that works because then they are kind of disappointed, the parents on Christmas.
Okay.
Kind of works.
Yeah.
Knowing that Christmas is the birthday of Jesus that we are celebrating takes the stress away. And my children, knowing that that's not your birthday, having a gift. So having a gift for Jesus' birthday is additional way of appreciating Jesus, and they don't expect much. That rather they will be thankful with what they get. So, but Santa Claus is a big deal that even at 20.
I went to people's homes where you can't even really sit because there's so many presents everywhere. And if you look at kids, they're not satisfied. I mean, it's just almost to open up one and throw it down and what's next. And, and I think it's kind of going back to what are the holidays really about? What are those key things that we're wanting to teach? We can talk some more as we keep going, but I want you to think about an opportunity to reframe your family picture. We all have a view of our family, and it's based on experiences, positive as well as negative. Okay. Families, you guys, you may not be able to see this, but families are messy. And once we're married, we've got the two families, right? And it's the in-laws and ourselves. And as everyone keeps marrying, it's all those other ideas as the family structure keeps changing. So we have all kinds of configurations. There's some people who don't want to spend the holidays with their biological family because it's too much trauma or drama or whatever, that they would prefer close friends instead. But I think, you know what, we get to make choices. One of the things when families get together, adult kids, we come, mom and dads, or however your family configuration, and we don't spend as much time with our siblings as adults. So we kind of revert back to old rivalries. And we may not even be aware that we do it. Okay. And sometimes parents will go, oh, there they go at it again. Or, I used to see that between two of my stepsisters, the oldest stepsister to the youngest stepsister. And I joined the family when I was 12, and I'm the youngest out of all 8. Okay. But it would always be like, oh, why is she holding the family hostage? Well, the family allows it. So it's challenging some of that. And maybe getting help with some of those things. One of the preparing yourselves that I bring up with people, how old are you when you get together with your family? There is sometimes that we in our minds, when we get around our siblings, we revert back to teenagehood. We got to get one off the other. We do certain things. We know how to press each other's buttons. We would never do that at work. We wouldn't do it professionally, right? So sometimes it's okay to say, I kind of challenge some of people I've worked with before, well, how old are you when you get together?
That can happen when you're 50 years old and you have
Yes.
parents in the room as well.
Yes.
You're no longer treated like a 50-year-old, you're treated like an 18.
And it's like trying to figure out how to prepare myself for that. So how can I do that? Because what happens is sometimes the rivalry is for mom and dad's opinion and approval and love. You know, things get tied to that. Gift giving gets tied to that too sometimes, right? You love me more or you love them more. There's these other things that are going on. But I want, if we can all begin to think, what is functional in our families? Can we focus on what is functional and make that the part that we're focusing on, not the dysfunction of our family? You know what I mean? And just begin how we think about it, approaching it. I always bring up holidays as the empty chair. You know, it is really strange for me. My husband and I'm 60, he's 62. And, you know, we have lost all our parents now in our life. You know, we are the senior generation, and it really has changed things. But, you know, when one parent passed away, and then how it changed the dynamic of the holidays. And I will guarantee you, us as kids, and I'm referring to myself, my brother, my step siblings on my mom's side, none of us thought that it was them tying us all together. And that's why we got together. And so after all of them passed away, the reality is between some of the siblings and my step siblings that I'm talking about is a distancing. And so that's where that legacy piece I talk about is. Some of it is a thinking through, and I'm not saying every family has to get together because sometimes that's not healthy. It's not healthy emotionally for some people, okay? But as you're thinking about the empty chair, one of the things is, though, maybe you're the one visiting your parents and they're aging, or they're coming to your house. It's being aware that they're aging, being aware of things that they may not be able to do as well. And the other thing I have learned from working with patients and then having my parents all lived into their 90s. So I was fortunate in that, but they didn't want to ask us kids for help. They wanted us kids to know they would need help and offer help. And it was trying to figure that out. You know what I mean? So it's just some thoughts. Other families may have a young person who's declining. I have a couple of friends right now who have kids have cancer, and the kids are in elementary school. You know, and there's these different emotions that come up. So just kind of being aware, but thinking about it, we can always reframe our family. It doesn't always have to be the worst memory we had. So what are some solutions and strategies? You guys are all starting, I think, to even begin to talk about that. But one, we can be praying for direction, starting ahead of time. We can't wait, you know, to be holidays are approaching because families just don't work that way when you've got so many people. What can we simplify, you guys? How can we simplify and reset? How much can we realistically do? What is Christmas or Thanksgiving really about? And what could that look like? But then you're going to get into, well, not everyone agrees, right? But if you're the one that's hosting, do you not have some ability to have some say of what happens and what you plan activity-wise at your house? And then not getting mad at someone else who may choose to host next time and they're doing it that way or this way. I think we have choices. But I also have to think, we have to wonder, are we trying to get approval? What is that? And remembering if we choose to host, how many times do we host because we think, I know who's going to do it. I got to do it. And then I'm resentful. And my God, I'm up. And what am I doing? And all, you know, the things that go on, right?
Family obligation.
It is.
Getting up at 4 a.m. to put the turkey in the oven.
So again, what I think this is really going to come down to, how can we collaborate, delegate, and negotiate? And it's sharing with the families and not just saying, oh, that's okay. I'll just take care of it. You know, and really, and I think it's wording things in a way that they don't have how do I say this? I give people a choice. Would you like to do this or this? I don't say, would you like to help? Because then you have to be prepared for no, right? So, you know, giving choices, but it's a choice that will really truly help you if you're the one hosting. Does that make sense, guys?
One thing I have found, I finally, after all the stress of the food, asked my family, I have a small family, so a son and a wife and 2 children. I said, y'all, this coming Christmas, I'm ordering dinner from our Christmas dinner from Green Valley Grill, and I hope that'll work for y'all. They said fine. They loved it. We had a good dinner. I wasn't stressed. So that is.
So it's coming up with different solutions, right? If you think about what is it that will lower your stress, what will make the holiday enjoyable for you, and not just the kids, you know. Any other ideas like that people have or have tried?
I don't know if anybody's tried Google Docs with their family, but it's everybody can word process. I'm pretty sure you know about Google Docs. We've started before every holiday, like Thanksgiving, we have a Google Doc, and everybody can add, or if they want to change something, highlight it. And it's amazing how we were all thinking the same thing, but we were all afraid to say that. And through this Google Docs,
Yeah.
So you were able to plan it using a Google Doc, and everybody was able to put their input on it.
But I think you raised a really important point. If you're stressed by something going on, guaranteed somebody else in the family is, but people are afraid to approach it. They don't want to upset each other. It's what to do with that conflict, because they're imagining there's going to be conflict. And there may not be. There may be on some things, but there may not be on other things. Well, and I think that's what, if we could do that, people would be more willing to host, right? People would be more willing to do some things or get less angry. That's part of, I think, the ground rules, whether it's through a Google Doc, but again, the prepping for ground rules needs to come. And it may even be this year, you'd say, next year, you guys open to trying this in a different way? You know, what is it that you would like? And just to begin to generate some ideas, because it's so far off, people may be willing to do that and it's non-threatening. And then you continue to build on them as the year goes on. I always say those touchy subjects, pre-planning responses, and know your audience. You know the personality types. There's people who just love to argue, or they want to win a conversation or a point, right? There's the person who's always going to say something. You can't change them, but they're there. So figuring out a way that you can deflect it. How can you move that, transition that over to a different subject, in a way that will be smoother? And it's funny, my husband, you guys, my last name is strange. My husband was born in Iran and then immigrated to France before he came to the U.S. Well, in Iranian culture, I kind of laugh because they deflect all the time when they don't want to talk about something in a family gathering that would be considered something like the subject they just don't want to talk about. And the first few times I was like, I asked a question, but it was obviously too forward and completely ignored my question, even if I addressed it to somebody. And then someone else came in with something else, and I was starting to watch this pattern. And it was like, oh, so that's a touchy subject. I wonder why, but again, because I'm a little bit more invasive maybe in my questions. Americans, we have a different way. But it was interesting. I don't recommend completely ignoring when someone says something, but because that is its own set of rudeness in our culture, right? But how to be a little bit gracious? Well, thank you for pointing it out. But what do you think of this? Some way to bring it and change it around a little bit. Teaching our kids how to do that with the older relative they hardly ever see, and then they ask them those embarrassing questions for our teens, right? Helping them to negotiate that. If you have a loss in your family, don't run away from it. A holiday time is an important time, and to maybe mention, and it could be something where you actually had some fun memories, and you might have to have some tears. It depends on how long ago that loss was. But I think to not address it does yourself a disservice and the family a disservice. But be realistic. The year that my mom died, my mom had gone through a lengthy illness and was in hospice for like 5 months before she passed. And that Thanksgiving and Christmas, I often hosted a lot of things, but I just didn't feel like it. And it was okay. My daughter and my husband and I, we kind of told all the other family, you know what? We don't mean to offend, but this year we're just kind of holding down. And that was okay. That's what we needed to do. That was good for us. So I think you have to figure out what that looks like for you guys. Oh, did I hit a backward thing? Questions, thoughts about that? Thoughts about how do you think about that with loss in a family?
We lost our 43-year-old son 2.5 years ago. And, it was in May. And so when Christmas came, I was very surprised, but my husband said, I brought some lights from Jay's house. What if we put them on a tree and it'd just be Jay's tree?
Wow.
So we did that. And then Robert said, I want his stocking out. I want all the stockings out. So we just kept thinking of things that reminded us. And it really helped.
See, it can be part of the healing. Yeah.
Tell me about the album that you did also.
Well, I've done actually 2 albums. There were so many pictures of Jay and lots of fun pictures. And I did one for his brother too. I think you just do things that help you be able to move.
And what you were doing was grieving, but you were sharing some joy in the process. When we grieve and hide, it just eats at us. And it really makes it harder and harder. So I think, who loves him more but your family, right? And being able to have that and do those memories. One of the things that I've learned is having the courage to ask others if you can join them for the holidays. When we moved to North Carolina, I was used to celebrating all of them with my mom and my stepdad and all of that. There was 30 of us together for Easter Sunday, for Mother's Day, for Father's Day, for Thanksgiving, for Christmas. And we moved to North Carolina, and it was like, I have cousins and all, but you know what? They weren't used to inviting us to their house because we were always in California, So it was interesting to have the courage. And I say this because you may have people who are divorced, but if their kids are grown, they may be going to the in-laws because we know how we split everything, right? So sometimes good self-care is having the courage ourselves to ask, can we join you? And at the same time, maybe being on the lookout for people who don't have a place to spend the holidays and being willing to open up your family, what I mean, just sharing that with other people. Any other strategies you guys are thinking about? Yeah.
One of the things that I'm aware of is that I have a son here and his wife and family and a son in DC. The son in DC is married to a woman whose mother is like the good housekeeping grandmother of the year. She's very impressive. She makes quilts for everyone. She does major things. And so my granddaughters, my grandchildren up there, just know that she's really good at things. And they'll say, but Grammy, you can sing funny songs, Say, what song do you want to sing? So I just know that my role is not her role.
Yeah.
But you know what? But not turning that into a competition.
No, I tell her, there's no way.
Well, no, but I just mean it doesn't define you.
No.
Needing to do that. Don't be in competition. I'm a grandmother now, and it's just really strange because, you got the 2 grandmothers and trying to figure out, okay, well, and I had to say, wait, I want to be the grandmother I just am. That's who I am. And I'm not going to even want to know what so-and-so is doing. I don't need to know all that, right? I just want to be genuine. I don't want to be judged like that. I don't want to be compared if I can, right? All right, promoting fun and gratitude. I want you guys to break into another small group. And I'm wondering what kind of, you guys, am I on time still? We have 6 minutes? Do you want to do this as a large group then?
Yeah.
What are ways that you guys bring fun into your family gatherings for the holidays? That you think are fun and it could be for the kids, it could be for the adults. But how do you all bring fun into this?
We put those silly poppers on the table on Christmas Day, and they have crowns, and we all put the crowns on. We put the tissue paper necklaces and all that. We do that just to be silly.
Something fun. Okay. Any other ideas or what people do in your own families for fun for the holidays?
It started as something my parents did of making hot dogs and s'mores in the fireplace on Christmas Eve. Just a really simple Christmas Eve thing. But now that we do it, like Tim and I and the kids, I think it really tickles them that we're like cooking dinner in the fireplace. And so even as like bigger kids now, it's
still fun.
A small, And I was thinking, like, I feel like it's the really simple things that are the most fun. Like when we would drive through the neighborhood and look at lights and they didn't have to be in their car seats. It was just like, I'm freewheeling in the car. And it's like, yeah, you sure are. And so, because it's something to go back to a previous slide I've had to do is grieve what holidays aren't for us. Like one of the things I share with Maddie is I grew up where it was my immediate family and Tim grew up where it was the big families. And when my parents and my sister and her family, we can't be together, I really struggled with that for many years because that was holidays for me, like just simple, genuine time with them. And so I think that's until I just gave myself permission to grieve what I didn't have anymore or like what was going to look different, that was helpful. And I found myself leaning towards the fun, simple things and just having to go, if the Charlie Brown Christmas CD is like your jam for the entire month of December, that's what you're going to do. Like that can be the holidays for you. It doesn't have to be the big family stuff anymore.
I think those are really good points. Yes.
We have a daughter that lives in Jersey, and she has a daughter that's 8 years old. And we go to the Thanksgiving Day parade or the Christmas parade, whichever one we're there. We kind of go back and so that's become a little part of our holiday thing that we can enjoy. The Thanksgiving and Christmas, and she enjoys it. All of us seem to enjoy it.
I think if we can all try to do some of that, and at the same time, what are ways that you guys bring fun into your family gatherings for the holidays? That you think are fun and it could be for the kids, it could be for the adults. But how do you all bring fun into this?
We put those silly poppers on the table on Christmas Day, and they have crowns, and we all put the crowns on. We put the tissue paper necklaces and all that. We do that just to be silly.
Something fun. Okay. Any other ideas or what people do in your own families for fun for the holidays?
It started as something my parents did of making hot dogs and s'mores in the fireplace on Christmas Eve. Just a really simple Christmas Eve thing. But now that we do it, like Tim and I and the kids, I think it really tickles them that we're like cooking dinner in the fireplace. And so even as like bigger kids now, it's
still fun.
A small, And I was thinking, like, I feel like it's the really simple things that are the most fun. Like when we would drive through the neighborhood and look at lights and they didn't have to be in their car seats. It was just like, I'm freewheeling in the car. And it's like, yeah, you sure are. And so, because it's something to go back to a previous slide I've had to do is grieve what holidays aren't for us. Like one of the things I share with Maddie is I grew up where it was my immediate family and Tim grew up where it was the big families. And when my parents and my sister and her family, we can't be together, I really struggled with that for many years because that was holidays for me, like just simple, genuine time with them. And so I think that's until I just gave myself permission to grieve what I didn't have anymore or like what was going to look different, that was helpful. And I found myself leaning towards the fun, simple things and just having to go,
if the Charlie Brown Christmas CD is like your jam for the entire month of December, that's what you're going to do. Like that can be the holidays for you. It doesn't have to be the big family stuff anymore.
I think those are really good points. Yes.
We have a daughter that lives in Jersey, and she has a daughter that's 8 years old. And we go to the Thanksgiving Day parade or the Christmas parade, whichever one we're there. We kind of go back and so that's become a little part of our holiday thing that we can enjoy. The Thanksgiving and Christmas, and she enjoys it. And all of us seem to enjoy it.
I think if we can all try to do some of that, and at the same time, think about gratitude sharing. What is it that you value about someone? What is something special? Is it a characteristic? Is it, in the beginning to have other kinds of conversations? Gratitude towards God, the blessings in our lives. You can make it whatever you want it to be. Some people do the family gift for a community organization and help their kids choose that. When my daughter was young, we always did, it was Jesus' birthday, so we all had a little party with a lot of her friends, girlfriends, and it wasn't at our house, it was another house usually, and they brought gifts because then we would donate it. And it worked okay until the girls started comparing the quality of the gift that they gave. Yeah, do you know what I mean? So it's like just being aware. And I guess, again, as you guys are saying, what is that real meaning of Thanksgiving and Christmas? And what do we want that to look like? Well, we're going to close, but you know what? I really pray for all of us as we're really refocusing. How can we find some peace in the holidays? What would that look like? And I wish all of you well within your families as you're looking to do that. Okay? It's a pleasure to meet all of you, and thank you for having me.
We'll do this next week with Maddie Lohman.
Yeah, Maddie Lovin's coming next week, and then Deborah Connor is going to do the third week.
All of it.
It's Arthur Tuesday.
Let's see. Garden room. Yeah, the next 2 weeks for the garden room. Now that I remember that. Thank you all. Thank you.